it's necessary from our point of view. Okay, so basically what this says is regarding accounts or trusts under the sub-account of Social Security number and or birth certificate number / driver's license number / passport number. Dear Secretary of State Record Keeper, until recently, I was unaware that there were affairs being managed on my behalf without my knowledge or consent that have been left improperly tended with atrocious results. Now it has come to my attention that matters are not being handled equitably. Matters regarding to what? I want to test you guys, because I can read stuff pretty fast and there's a lot to absorb here. What type of matters am I talking about? You're sending this to the Secretary of State after you've done, as you can see here, I've numbered, the steps, and this is just step 1. This whole page is really just one big step of like 6 or 7 or 8 steps, and you can even go beyond that, and you can expatriate, officially no longer be a citizen, completely remove your Social Security number, completely get, completely get expatriated. You can go as far as you want, okay? There's some disadvantages to jumping into that, because if you leave the country and you don't have your common law status completely set up, they won't let you come back in. So there's, a lot of people have different benefits, Social Security, different things like that. They may not want to go that whole route. But the secured party creditor process is the way that you can keep all the trust. The trust still has the beneficial use of the Social Security, because you're into a private contract with the government that you paid into Social Security. They're going to pay you back Social Security, okay? So it's okay to collect Social Security. It's the trust that's collecting Social Security. There's nothing wrong with that. So the secured party creditor process is good for everyone. It's not something where you have to give up any other benefits that the trust entity is expecting, or has, if you've already done your work where you're expecting a return, pensions, things like that. You can still get that, okay? So it's a process. This is why we cover it first. It's really the first process to move on to any further processes. So we're just going to talk about this process, because if you haven't completed this process, why talk about the further processes? Why talk about the expatriation process? Why talk about things that are 5 levels beyond and more experienced than where you need to be? This is the first process, the first step to get yourself set up and secured. And it's, as you can see in all these documents here, which I'm going to open up each and every one of them today, it's not just filing a UCC-1. It's not just doing a security agreement and filing a UCC-1. You must re-express the trust, so you're converting it from a constructive trust into an express trust, have all the documentation you need to have, beneficiaries appointed, registry of the trust certificate units, all of those things. Okay, you may want to get a separate EIN number, so now that even you got confirmation that the IRS recognizes this as an express irrevocable trust, express trust, okay? So you want to get as much evidence on your side as possible, so that if anyone tries to come in and say, well, we're the trustees, we're administrating this trust, you can say, now you're committing high fraud. And so they will back off and they won't do that. And guess what? When you do it properly, it works. It's not like a it's not like a merry-go-round, right? Necessarily, there are people, they still need to fight with court, but people win their cases if they stick with it. It's a process that works, okay? They will lie to you, they will challenge you a little bit as well. I'm sure you guys expect that that's the case to an extent, okay, when the stakes get high. But this is a process that works. I just really want you guys, because why should you listen to me? Why should you go through all the trouble putting all these documents and things together, okay? So that's why, is because it's just not something that we just came up with, like, some other stuff that's out there, which I'm not knocking some new theories and stuff that's out there. There's a lot of good stuff that's out there that you can incorporate those concepts. But I would make sure you get all your paperwork in order that changes your status to a trustee of a trust that doesn't have liability, that operates on behalf of beneficiaries, and now you can say, hey, I'm just doing my job. Okay, it's like an employee of Coca-Cola will never get convicted for Coca-Cola soft drinks causing people to have rotted teeth. Does that make sense, guys? Right? Any claims against Coca-Cola, lawsuits, whatever, civil, criminal, traffic tickets, whatever, the employee or a manager or an officer or director or the vice president or whatever of someone just working for Coca-Cola can't be personally liable for Coca-Cola products rotting someone's teeth. And that mother of that 8-year-old kid whose teeth rotted because he drank Coca-Cola every day wants to open up a lawsuit against Coca-Cola. You got to open up the lawsuit against Coca-Cola. You can't open up the lawsuit against the guy who sold you Coca-Cola or the guy who packages Coca-Cola into the boxes in the warehouse and ships them out. And you can't do it after the vice president or even the president. There's a separation of liability when you work for a corporation as a group, as an organization. You're not liable. The corporation is liable. The corporation, it's a dead fiction. It's liable, not you. Okay? So that's exactly what we're doing here. And when you take control as a trustee, this is what you send to the Secretary of State and the other places. Okay? This is what you can send. This is what people send. This is the process. Until recently, I was unaware that there were affairs being managed on my behalf without my knowledge or consent that have been left properly tended to with atrocious results. Now that it has come to my attention that matters of the trust, right? Matters have not been handled equitably. Matters are not being handled with efficiency. In many respects, matters are not being taken care of at all. Usurpation of funds is occurring. There's rampant fraud and deceit. Positions of trustee have been left vacant or properly attenuated. I have waived beneficial position and interest to take a position of trustee to manage the affairs of the trust, Mark John Smith Trust, or whatever your legal name is, and full control forth hence, as indicated and identified by the account numbers above. Please return all information to the address above if you have any on hand or is in your care to the trustee. All others are now barred from handling affairs in regards to Mark John Smith Trust. All contracts that are in existence for the trust are to be returned to the trustee within 30 days for management or shall be considered vitiated, nunc pro tunc, void from inception by the trust forth hence. Your prompt cooperation is greatly appreciated. Furthermore, this and all pertinent documentation has been filed as public record under necessity in the commercial registry of the state of whatever under filing number whatever. You're going to handwrite that in. For some reason this thing keeps popping up. All right. This is a notice and acceptance via your receipt of this mailing. If you feel this notice is in any way in error or disagree with the change in position, please feel free to rebut this notice with your concerns within 30 days, or it will stand as fact prima facie. Notice to agent, notice to principal, notice to principal is notice to agent. Trustee secured party, Mark John of the Smith family, without prejudice, recourse, authorized representative, Mark John Smith Trust. So there's duplicate copies in this, in here. All right, so I'll just take a little breath there, see if we have any questions. Is anybody starting to get what the process here is? Does anybody have questions about specifically the material on the screen in particular? And there's hands raised, but they might be from a while ago. I want to find out if those people, all right, let's go down to the bottom. The beneficiary is not an exchanger in this kind of a trust. We've got, how do you go about the name of the express trust, says TJ. How go about the name? It's just your legal name with the word trust at the end. Does correcting your status automatically? Okay, correcting your status is a big umbrella. It depends what you do. There's 75,000 different things that you can do. Updating government records, changing your status to trustee, changing your status to grantor, you know, killing off the straw man, withdrawing the Social Security number. There's lots of things that you can do. Okay. What is correcting your status? This is just a series of some documents that you could do for the initial setup. The initial setup is something that, again, you're just changing your position of the trust. Okay, if you get that, you will be able to answer your own question when you ask, does it void things like the passport, driver's license, etc.? How would it void them if you're not rescinding or anything like that? You know, again, you're changing your position of the trust. Okay, that's like if you had a corporation that you were a shareholder of and you sold your stock and said, I don't want to be the shareholder anymore, I want to be the president of Coca-Cola. Does that in any way change any patents or copyrights or property or other employees or anything that Coca-Cola has? Does Coca-Cola's EIN number change? Does Coca-Cola's license to do business in whatever state change because you decided not to be a beneficiary or a shareholder and you decided to be a trustee or executive? Okay, let me say that one more time. If this was a corporation, if you were a shareholder and said, I don't want to be an owner, I want to be a director, I want to be a manager, I want to be a vice president of Coca-Cola, I want to control how things run here, not reap the beneficial position. I want to be the controller, have a controlling role. If you said, I don't want to be a shareholder, but I want to work for the company as a manager or as a director or as a president, how would that change any licenses, EIN numbers, or anything? Does that answer the question? Okay, if you get it, then you get it. Then you don't have questions. You know the answers to the questions if you get it. Okay, and I'm here to help you to get it. I'm not trying to. Sometimes I'm a little, sometimes forgive me, but my tone is a little like it comes off. I don't intend it, but sometimes I'm just very, it comes off as sometimes insulting. So I don't mean anything that way, but I'm trying to drill home a point to help because I'm sincere about wanting you guys to understand it. So if you understand what you're doing, waiving beneficial position, becoming trustee, then because this letter says everything, we don't have to go into anything else to get you to understand it. Just read this letter 50 times until you understand it. If you don't know what attenuated means, if you don't know what usurpation means, look them up in the dictionary. Understand every word on this notice, and you will get this process. It's really broken down this simply. This is really just the one-page cliff notes of this initial setup. You can correct status 1,000 other different ways based on your needs and your preferences and your knowledge and how you might be able to update different government records or whatever on your own or whatever your scenario is. That's up to you. That's additional stuff that we go over so that you can pick and choose or just digest the knowledge and digest the, being exposed to the material and the concepts and the ideas. So if you're really interested in learning every possible thing about status correction, and I'm not saying we know every single possible thing, but if you want a real comprehensive plethora, sign up for the status correction course. This, I'm just going to give to you the initial setup to introduce you to one significant layer of protection that no, you're not giving up Social Security, no, you're not giving up the driver's license, no, you're not giving up the passport. Okay, so if that makes sense, I hope you guys are getting that of what this does. I know it's a lot to take in, so I'll work with you guys. Someone asked, yeah, a trust files a trust if it's in the U.S. files a 1041. Okay, so if you do this, you have to really understand what you're doing. That this is a trust. You have to know in your core that the name is a trust, and you're not. If you're filing taxes, you're not filing 1040s. you're filing 1041s. Have you ever looked at a 1041 before? Are you planning on filing 1041s if you're filing taxes, or if you're liable to, and obligated to file taxes, or you think it's a good idea to do so? You can't do this. Don't do these documents unless you're going to do 1041s instead of 1040s. Unless you really believe and know that it is a trust. So very good question, David. He asked about the 1041. And yeah, people have been filing 1041s after they've done this for, 10, 15 years. I'm not aware of anyone that's, like gotten in trouble. If you're questioned about it, well, why are you filing 1041s? Well, because it's a trust. So you got to really know the stuff. That's why we do a whole week by week course to give people glossary of definitions, study partners, answering people's questions for 3, 4, 5 hours until people don't have any more questions, giving people downloads, giving people stuff to study. This is why we go into this. And I try to leave as much fluff out and only give, the material that is necessary to understand the concept. You can always go back in later, rewatch the stuff. You have a lifetime, if you get the status correction course, you have a lifetime license to all the materials. You can watch them at any given point in time and for the next 99 years, okay? So we will maintain those files for you in a way where you can re-download them anytime you want, or you can access them on a private membership. You can with a login and password, which we're going to get in the next couple of months. We're going to set it up with a private membership through the website, so that you can absorb all this material and get the overstanding of it. Okay, because you can't just go and run file documents without really believing in them. Okay, anything you sign your name to, you should research and understand what every word means. Or just take the course for entertainment for now, or for study, and think about if you want to do it at some point in the future. You have to start learning sometime, right? Don't you take a driver's ed course for a while and you do the in the classroom stuff for like many weeks before you actually go out and start getting in a car and doing the test driving in the parking lot? It's the same thing with anything. If you care about your freedom, if you care about changing your status from not being, the property and the beneficiary and having the government be the trustees, if you want to change that, how much do you really care? Are you going to study, or are you going to watch, Big Bang Theory for 3 hours a night on Friday night? Which I admit, it's a very entertaining show. I like the show. But when push comes to shove, when I know I have to study stuff and it's important to obtain freedom, I'd rather spend those 3 hours studying the materials, regurgitating it, putting it into PowerPoints, and preparing for the status correction course, because when I know I have to teach, I have to clear my plate off, I have to clear my desk off, and I have to take material, and I have to put it all together in a way that breaks it down so it's explainable to someone else. You learn the best when you are teaching. So if you saw on our website, we have one of the best ways to learn is to teach. So if any of you guys want to teach some of these concepts while you're studying and learning them yourself, you can actually get paid to put together PowerPoint presentations and convert them into webinars, and we'll pay you $1,000 a month to do a few presentations a month for us. So if you missed that, you must not be on our email list, or maybe you deleted the email because you got too busy, or you missed the blog post. So stay in tune with our email list. If the stuff's going into spam folder, whitelist us and make sure that we're in your contacts and we're not going in your spam folder. And then check out the blog roll on our website, frequently, because we add new stuff here and new services and things like that. So I will show you guys the secured party creditor form that you can fill out if you want to jump to getting your paperwork filed at any given point in time, because hey, I'm still learning the process, but I've done the filings, right? So you could still do the process while you're learning it. Okay, you're never completely done learning, right? You're always still in the learning mode. So we have a file here that you can download when you go to Products, SPC, UCC Filings, the first product, and it downloads to your computer, and you can open up and you can get a nice little form where you can fill out, you got to hit enable editing, you can fill out your information, and underneath the column it tells you exactly how to put you know, secured party creditor first name, this is your name spelled with the first letter in caps and every other letter lowercase and then a hyphen, and then the middle name upper and lowercase with a colon, and then the last name or the family name. Okay, then you pick the domicile of the living man or woman. This is we suggest the common law state of your choosing. And then you pick a street address, city, state, zip. It gives you tips on, don't abbreviate the city, don't abbreviate the state, spell it out, and put the zip code in brackets for the secured party address. And then we give recommendations about getting an offshore foreign address, and we can refer you to a company that is in another country in the Caribbean that anybody looks at that address. And that's why on these documents here, the Mark John Smith, which is the secured party creditor, has an address in Nevis, the West Indies, because they're going to see that you're sending this from outside the United States. Okay? Whereas if you put an address with the zip code in brackets and write non-domestic, that's a way to say that you're in the common law, that you're still outside the United States, but it's a little bit more clear and more secure if you pick an address for the secured party to get mail that is offshore, like in the Caribbean or Latin America or somewhere close by, where you could, if it's important mail, get it forwarded to you. But there are receiverships that you can get mail from trusted sources of, friends of mine that run it, that will scan in any mail that they get, and you'll get it in an email notification in real time. Okay. And you're not going to get a lot of mail for the living man or woman. Okay, you want your mail, your email communications, you want all your dealings to be done through the all capital letters name. Okay, you don't want to be signing things as, this is the biggest mistake, in my opinion, it's a mistake. One of the biggest mistakes that people are doing right now is they're signing their names. People are mailing us donations and stuff, and they're signing their name in hyphens and colons and upper and lower case. Well, they're taking personal liability on the transaction that they're doing, right? You want the trust. You want to use the, okay, this is specifically because you're notifying from outside the United States that you, the living man, are doing this. So there's some capacity where you're sending this notice, but when you go off in the world, you're using this trust as a shield between any liability. The trust is the one contracting, not you, the living man or woman up here. Okay, so you're going to use the trust. You're going to use its social security identifying number. You're going to use its driver's license number, perhaps. You're going to use its name in all caps with the word trust in any contracts or dealings in order to absorb any potential liability onto the trust and not onto you, the living man or woman. Does that make sense? And do you guys see, or do you have a counterpoint? Do you guys want to debate? Does anybody have a good point to argue against what I'm saying? In other words, what I'm saying is you're not going to be signing your name hyphens and colons. You're going to be signing all caps in the real world because you want any potential liability to be put onto this trust. Why? Because the trust has two trustees, multiple beneficiaries. It's an organization. It's just like Coca-Cola, right? Coca-Cola will sign the contracts, not the employees for Coca-Cola. Why would Coca-Cola ask its employee to sign a contract to absorb the liability? Why would you, as an employee of Coca-Cola, sign a contract? If anything, if you did sign your name on the contract like this, you would put as, and then you would put the capacity that you're signing as, okay? So you might write by Mark-John Smith, comma, as trustee for Mark John Smith Trust, because the contract You're the one executing the signature on behalf as the authorized representative for the all caps name Mark John Smith Trust. Okay, so you are not personally liable because you're signing in the capacity as a trustee of the trust, and so the trust absorbs the liability. And the trust is the one engaging in the contract, not you, the man, or the woman. So I will open up for questions on that point. I'll try to get my special guest on the line in a minute. Okay, any docs that will be signed by a notary will say jurat on the bottom. None of these say jurat on the bottom. There are other documents that might say jurat on the bottom. Okay, breaks the presumption that the natural it's like going from sole proprietor to full liability, corporation protections on the same EIN. Brother, you're doing great. Thank you, Vince. Makes it a valid contract, just not a presumption. Yep. Separates paper from flesh. Yep. I'll read this letter till I get it. Yeah, I mean, guys, it took me a long time to get this. I know. I'm trying to break it down and provide tools and videos and trainings and Q&A because this is important stuff. Like when you help people get their paperwork in order and then win 6 and 7 figures in common law claim processes where they didn't have to go to court and they didn't have to hire attorneys and they won and they got paid, including from being arrested or beat up by cops. I mean, it's the most rewarding thing that you can do to help people win money for being injured or damaged, including if a business partner ripped them off and stole money from you, stole intellectual property. Any way that you're injured in any way, you can do a common law tort claim. You just got to get this. You got to get all this paperwork done, and right, and all this stuff. And so we put together a form